how to tell if the bull is still intact with divergence. So we're going to use divergence, and the demonstration that I'm going to use, we're going to look at the weekly Nasdaq. And let me just run through what we're going to discuss in this short video. Number one, we're going to learn how to set up with MACD. That's one of the best indicators to measure divergence. Number two, how to tell if the bull it is still intact. And number three, how to tell if the bull it is losing its momentum. Now let's go straight to the Nasdaq weekly chart here. As you could see, this is a Nasdaq weekly chart. And before that, disclaimer, what presented here, it is not a recommendation. So please consult your licensed broker. My mission is to create lateral thinking skill for every investor and trader, knowing when to take a calculated risk, like in today's market uncertainty, and a bolder risk when opportunity arises. Now, the first part, how to set up with MACD to measure divergence, and some indicator that I always enjoy using to measure divergence of the market, especially, is with MACD, moving average convergent divergence. I just do a setup here. And there's no change to the standard parameters that I'm using, just the standard parameters that's built into the platform. It is good enough. Now, I think the first rule about how to tell, which is part two of this program here, is that how to tell if the bull is still intact. Now, in an uptrend, there's a certain characteristic, as you could see here, the price, that each new high, it is newer than the former high. So that's the number one rule to look at an uptrend. Now, say for example, in this few picks that we saw here, there's this pick, this pick, this pick, this pick. Now, if you notice, or even all the way up here, that each new pick, it was a higher pick than the former, and that forms an uptrend here. Okay, so we're in the topic of how to measure if the bull it is still intact with divergence. Now, similarly, as we look down on the MACD, that we also look at a pick, but not to get too confused, to look everywhere, to look at the pick, to look at the trough, but we also look at the pick. Now, the rule here is that to measure the uptrend, whether the bull is still intact with divergence, we look at the pick on the prices. Similarly, on the MACD indicator, we look at the pick as well. So that's the rule, and so that you will not get confused if you're going to eyeball it for yourself. Now, for the MACD, as we could see here, each new pick, it was also higher than the former pick. Now, this is a bit flattish, I know that, but the subsequent one, it was higher, and this was higher. And that kind of gives me a sense that the market then, the bull, it is intact. That's part two of today's video. How to tell if the bull is still intact. You look at the prices, and you drop down and you look at the MACD as well. If it is in line, that is also tilting towards the north, towards the uptrend, and that shows that the uptrend is still intact. Now, let's move on to the last part of this short video here, which is how to tell if the bull is losing its momentum. Now, as we could see that as the price progresses, as time progresses, price progresses, that the market itself is still forming a new high, that we could see that each new peak, it was higher than the former high, as we could see that. But since September, of course, we wouldn't know at the point in time, but as it moved on to, say, the first quarter, second quarter of last year, I do notice that there was a bullish divergence. And what we saw explained earlier, that the bull is still intact, that we know the rules. Yep, the price was higher, the indicator, it was also higher as well. In this case, since about September 2020 all the way to recent high, yes, the price was higher, but let's look at the indicator itself. Now, it kind of measure a lower high. Now, how can we tell that the bull is losing its momentum? That's what I call a bullish divergence. Is the market bullish? Yes, it was. It was bullish, but there is right now a bullish divergence. And how can we tell? That each new pick on the MACD, on the indicator itself, it was a lower peak, and that represents a bullish divergence. I thought of just put it here. How I define bullish divergence is this. Now, it represents that the bull is losing its momentum. What this also means that not to get too complacent, that the bull will be charging forever. In times like this, make calculated risk with our investment. Keep tracking, keep studying, and be aware whenever there is a major shift in the market dynamic and trend. And what we saw here in the start of 2020 is that was there a major shift fundamentally? The answer is yes. Now, whenever we look at we diagnose the market, we examine the market, we analyze the market on a weekly perspective, we also have to include, if you saw something here that we analyzed that there was a bullish divergence while waiting for the market to give us a clearer signal, and come 2022 and that's where things start to change. Inflation keep on going up, and for the first time in March, the Fed raised the interest rate for the first time. And somewhere in December last year, in the middle of December last year, Fed finally admit that the inflation, it was not transitory, not because of the COVID opening up of the business activity, but they admit that the inflation is not transitory, and that kind of prepared the environment for 2022 and beyond. That inflation is going to be on the rise and interest rate is going to be on the rise. And it didn't help someone in February. We have the Russian and Ukraine war as well. So these are the fundamental shift. And what we could see here is that the market also start to turn as well. Now, so you may ask me that, so we have to recognize that somewhere in the middle of March this year, 2022, market did a rebound. And I can tell you that a lot of people are having this idea that perhaps the market is going to resume back to its uptrend again. But now today we learn that there is a bullish divergence. It means that we have to be very cautious, that I do not think that is a rebound, that market is going to resume back its uptrend, but rather the market is a retracement, perhaps for more selling to come. Yeah, because we're looking at a weekly perspective, means that you are going to take some more weeks for it to develop fully. All right, I hope you enjoyed what I just shared today. I just thought of to share with you the next few videos that we're going to cover more. I'm going to give you more example on divergence on the longer term perspective before I get into the shorter term. That I'm going to use example on S&P, Dow Jones and Russell. In the subsequent videos, we're going to learn how to apply divergence on the shorter term time frame with the markets, especially with the Micro Emini US Indices. Continue to explore this topic with these related videos and register for these webinars as well. Follow my Facebook page for my daily market insights. To be updated with my latest video, subscribe to my channel and remember to turn on the notification bell. See you again very, very, very soon.